Hello, everyone. Welcome to another SEO huddle. It's been a few weeks since we all last got together, but there's nothing better to shake us all out of our hiding places than Google I/O and dropping a lot of changes, AI mode, Gemini 2.5, everything really to just disrupt SEO even further because we've not had an easy year as it is. Today I'm joined by Jerry White and Cindy Crum, who are we're basically going to be expressing our opinions and unpacking our thoughts on Google I/O. Everything from things like AI mode, query fan out, personal context, and what we see the potential future of SEO being just in the very early days, because obviously nobody knows how to optimize for this yet. There's no first party data. No one's got silver bullet, wolf skin, and snake oil. So, Jerry, on that note, what are your first thoughts coming out of Google I/O?
I'm going to have a bit of a rant to start with because, it's me. Basically, the social contract, I've ranted about this so many times before, but it's breaking down. Basically, if Google's repurposing our content without any attribution or any kind of, level of understanding of if we post great content, are we going to get great traffic from Google, or is Google just going to rewrite it? And then when it actually has links back to us, apparently everybody's saying these have got no referrer tags on it, which means that we can't even say to our clients, hey, look, all this traffic that's coming from direct is actually organic. We just don't know. So basically, I feel like Google is screwing over publishers perpetually more and more. And on top of that, I don't know, part of me kind of wants us to go back a bit to kind of going, this is what I want a search engine to do. But equally, I'm also on the side of the consumer where I kind of go, actually, if I'm looking for information on a particular topic and Google can present it in an easy way, I kind of like that. I'm actually becoming a huge fan of ChatGPT and all the other tools. Perplexity is literally loaded up on a second screen all the time at the moment. So I'm in very much two camps. So, yeah.
Well, it's interesting one thing you said there with no referrer. We know that the no referrer is a bug, and it's just a hangover from pre. Well, it's interesting that slipped through and with the QA process, but it is a bug.
Bugs in Google tend not to get fixed very quickly. How quick? Okay, I will bet you £10 this bug is still there in 6 months' time. Deal?
Deal. Cindy is our witness and other people. I kind of feel, however, though, that if it was a bug that wasn't going to be fixed for a while, you wouldn't necessarily have. Well, John Mueller necessarily wouldn't have been able to publicly say it's a bug because the PR team would have handled it. And Google's very sensitive around major events and major product launches and things like that. And even if it is known in the public there is a bug in the shiny new product that's gone out to market, that can affect share price and shareholders and confidence and people who don't understand how significant the bug is. So I kind of feel it will be fixed. So thank you for the £10. I look forward to it.
I'm still betting on myself.
That's fair. Cindy, what are your initial thoughts from I/O?
I mean, I don't think anything was too surprising, right? Like, did anything surprise you guys?
Not overly. I mean, I did a live stream of a keynote, and I actually I did a bingo card for the I/O. And I crossed out all but 2 squares. The only 2 I didn't cross out were I expected Learn About to potentially have had more release in the education space. And given that Discover's now on desktop, I also had a square that basically just says Google goes full Netscape and becomes that portal. But everything else got crossed off. I mean, I'm surprised Virtual Try-On got the release it did without the vision match, which was the generate an AI image of a product you're searching for and then shop with that through a lens thing, given Gemini and all the rest of it out there. But yeah, it felt more underwhelming than last year. We suspected AI overviews were going to be launched last year, but then it was a bit like, oh, it's only been a year. This AI mode just doesn't feel as
I think in the past couple of years they've been getting ahead of themselves and they've been doing these kind of razzle dazzle announcements that don't always come to pass as quickly as they kind of describe them at Google I/O. So we heard a lot about AI overviews and stuff like that, but then they were slow to roll out. And I did Marketing Live, like 2 or 3 years ago, talking about, they were still talking about the plan of like AI organized overviews that included paid stuff. And that's another announcement this year. Like they keep announcing some of the same stuff over and over again. Same thing with the live real-time translation. Like that was supposed to be a thing like 3 or 4 years ago when I bought the stupid Google AirPods, that were supposed to be able to do a live translation of a conversation, and they like don't stay in your ears, and they also don't translate. Like they don't do any of that.
So, Cindy, are you going to buy some of those Google Glasses 2.0?
I mean, if someone wants to send them my way, I'll try them out. But no, I already own the Meta glasses, and I have not used them. I was gifted the Meta glasses.
I genuinely want a pair of the Meta glasses. I'm not going to lie. I think they look fantastic and they're simple. And I like good, simple stuff. And this is the problem with Google. I mean, I watched the kind of talking about Google XR, the new Android operating system. And I'm like, this is really cool, except for one problem. I wouldn't spend that much money on something where the sales feature is, hey, look, you can go anywhere with Google Maps now. And it's like, yeah, but what about all the other things I want to do with it? All of the kind of cool things I'd like to do with Google Glasses, the potential, the opportunities. And, you know, I just feel like it's just not quite there yet. I feel like if they made something really cool and actually sold it, they need to be more Apple. They need to be more, you know, razzle dazzle, and not a bit like, yeah, look, Google Maps.
Well, they need to come through on the razzle dazzle, because I think like what they announce always sounds great, but what they actually deliver is not as great.
I think the other side to it as well is, if you look, I mean, even in the demo where they did the live translation, there were some hiccups and they made a joke about it. But it's going to rely heavily on connectivity, because these are going to have to connect to presumably mobile devices to work, to have that kind of. And if you think about, okay, smartwatches are just about connected all the time, but smart speakers still take buffering, and it's the buffering element that they're not going to succeed on, and that buffering is only going to get better with smartphone devices being better and connectivity networks. So they're going to hit a limit on that, where, I mean, these demo conditions and all the rest of it, and you see the adverts where sequence is shortened, and that's going to be the killer point here, where they're going to have to overcome.
Yeah, well, and I wonder too, like there's so much going on right now. I wonder how and where the glasses are going to be manufactured, and
We're going to leave politics out of this one, 100%. But yeah, they might be a lot more expensive this year than Google expected.
It's going to make them very expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to shell out. I think, you know, Barry Schwartz, he was one of the first people to buy the Google glasses the first time around, and I'll let him take the hit. That was $600 back then. I'll let him take the $1,200. What did they say it was going to be?
I haven't seen any pricing at all, but I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm very much a fan of the MetaQuest VR headsets. I play with mine at least twice a week, basically, and you know, on top of that, but I do it for gaming, and I do it for fitness, I do it for all these other things, and it's sold to me as a console that can do so much stuff, and it can connect to everything, and it's really cool. There's so much technology in there, but the XR Samsung things, I'm looking at it kind of going, okay, but what would I do with it tomorrow? What would I do with it next week? What would I do with it 2 weeks? And there's nothing that makes me go, I want to put that on my head for like 3 or 4 hours a day. That's the difference. And I think that's why the Apple products kind of largely failed. We're going totally off topic, by the way. Sorry, Dan.
No, I don't think we have. We're talking about the glasses. They were a big deal.
And this is all part of Google's, what I'm calling it's Google's ecosystem of penetration now. And if they can get onto your actual face, I mean, we're already on our wrists. If they can get onto your face, you're further bought into the ecosystem. I was actually just trying to Google the price of it, and according to AI mode, the original Google Glass Explorer edition was $1,500, and the Enterprise 2 edition was $999. They estimate that the XR glasses will be less than the Meta glasses, which is $1,400. So they're looking about $1,000 potentially.
Okay, so my guess at $1,200 was still within the realm of possibilities. But I remember the first Google Glasses being cheaper. I didn't realize that they were $900 and up.
I think you could only really buy them if you were a developer, and they were sold kind of to developer at a kind of a developer type cost sort of thing. But again, I'm the guy who's got a Stadia controller on their desk because, you know, it's a great paperweight. And I've got so much Google products over the years where I've kind of gone, that was a really good thing at its time. But Google does this thing where they make it like it's built by engineers, developed by engineers, and it turns into kind of a Homer Simpson style car where it's got everything that they could possibly want. But you kind of go, if only it just had a speedo in the middle, and that's basically all I really want, I'd be a happy man. And that's why WhatsApp has killed Google Chat. That's why Facebook Messenger has killed Google Chat. Google Chat was the one that everybody used for 5 years, and now nobody uses it. I mean, I remember MSN Messenger and Google Chat being the two rulers.
I mean, I remember MSN. Never used Google Chat, but I remember MSN definitely. I mean, I randomly had a prediction about 8 years ago that Google would have bought Twitter because they failed with the social side of it with Google Plus, and that just seemed like a logical step. But then, yeah.
The crazy part is, in the process of building Google Plus, they bought Orkut, which was the Brazilian social network that no one's heard of except for Dan Taylor.
Yeah, but Orkut had issues. Orkut had a lot of issues.
I never used it. I just know of it. But at one point, it had a huge amount of traffic going through it. And it's crazy just how much Google has bought things and killed things because it just didn't seem to kind of work out how to make it work.
Orkut probably needed killing. They had a very large user protection issue, shall we say, of certain age groups. Yeah. So moving swiftly on from that side, then, if we carry on to Google's I/O, obviously the XR glasses doing that, but a key thing for me across all of it was just how much Gemini has been embedded to everything now, and especially with 2.5 and then deep research, different elements. I'd be interested what your key takeaways are from that. And I'm trying to leave AI mode to last a little bit because I feel that's a big rant in its own. But what are your thoughts on the new Gemini model and how it's been integrated across everything?
I'll go with Cindy first. Go on, Cindy.
Well, I've already noticed, on my phone, Gemini mode being triggered accidentally in non-browser behavior. Things like when I'm in Google Music, and maybe that was just a fluke, but yesterday it kept getting triggered and wanting to interact. But as a whole, I think this is another thing that's been announced at least once or twice before, that Google was going to have a system level AI chatbot that was going to be serving you all the time. So this is the first time it's really happened. But remember, they announced it last year and it was kind of a fizzle, right? And so did Apple. And so I'm the opposite of Jerry. Jerry buys all the things and tries all the things. I'm like, yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll see if this is going to be useful or not. Because I think it's just a good excuse to get more data, having a chatbot at the OS level.
I think it was about 2-3 years ago, maybe they did the example of booking a lady's haircut.
Yeah.
And that was the assistant. And then that just that fizzled out. But
and
one thing I noticed
in what they're trying to sell us again, though. They're trying to sell the agent will do these things for you.
Well, I noticed in that live demo kind of thing, I think it was the one where he was fixing the bike. It said in the background, I called the store and checked the stock or something. So there was almost you didn't even ask it to do that. That triggered an interaction on its own, was one of my takeaways from that.
Yeah.
But imagine it error. It does it by accident, kind of perpetually calling bike stores, kind of going, hey, have you got this Sproggin? And it's like, yes, would you like? And it's like, no, I'm just checking. Bye-bye. I would be really annoyed if Google bots kept calling me perpetually.
It's going to be so expensive for Google.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Gemini, of course, on my phone because I've got the same phone as you, Dan, a Pixel 8 or whatever it is. And I actually find it's a lot better than it used to be now. Gemini has actually started to get a lot better. But my favorite example recently was, I don't know if I shared it with you guys. I'll have to share it as a screenshot. But I asked it, where can I watch the Northern Lights in Norway or something similar to that? What cruise company do you recommend? And it started giving me mathematical calculations, started talking Indonesian, and then broke down into something completely weird and wonderful. And it kind of came out with the the answer is the pi r squared or something. It was one of those really weird things where it broke into something. I've shared this a lot on social. I will send it to you guys because it's hilariously funny, but it is weird just how the AI assistant will still be making some very strange LLM style kind of mistakes. Another example is when I went to Poland a week or so ago, I was playing around with it, and I'd set up my itinerary, I'd put it all into Google Gemini, and one of the things I'd done was sort of say, hey, recommend a bar near the venue and do this and do that. And then I said, brilliant, okay, now give me a complete itinerary of where we're going. Oh, don't forget this. And it suggested that the bar that I should go to before the event in the middle of Krakow was Gatwick Lounge, a lounge in Gatwick Airport, because I'd asked about that previously. So it mixed up stuff. And my feeling is, although that was a weirdly obvious mistake, if it mixes up stuff like that, I'd be terrified of it making some serious, really stupid mixes up. If it's booking my haircut and it decides to book my haircut in, I live near Leeds Castle down in Kent, and it'd book me a haircut in the wrong Leeds or something. It'd be kind of really bad.
And it has access to your credit card, so you might be charged when you no-show at the wrong place. And all of these things, and Google's not giving us insurance for Gemini, to cover the cost of Gemini screwing up on our accounts and booking the wrong hotel or the wrong flight or whatever. This is a fun idea, but the implementation is going to be tough.
Yeah.
And people trust the AIs too much. So I've found in my recent dealings, just with anyone in the digital space, I'm having to do a lot more nitpicky checks of stuff, because they're letting AI bots do their work, and the AI bots are screwing up. So someone sent me an invoice for an event that I'm participating in later this year. And I was not the only one who was like, this is a weird invoice. This is not what it's supposed to cost. There shouldn't be this, there shouldn't be that. And then I asked around, and everyone got weird invoices. And thinking back, I'm pretty sure that there was an AI bot in charge of making everyone's invoices.
That sounds really stupid.
Yeah. We're going to see this, because there's going to be early adopters who want to go in both feet first, jump straight in. We're more just because something's got AI integrated into it, it automatically is a replacement for it being a value add or an added service. And we're potentially going to see that even more.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at what AI overviews did to the SEO tool market, and everything has AI integrated into it now, and it doesn't necessarily need it, but you're going to use it because just using AI in anything is seen as being modern. It's seen as being forward thinking, about actually thinking, does it need it? And does it actually add value to a situation, or does it just make it worse?
And people still trust the AI just way too much, I think, which I think will be true for Gemini as well. So I'm not sure. I'm still in the wait and see camp. I don't know.
I think we've all experienced Gemini or whichever AI making a stupid mistake. I mean, Dan, have you asked it for help with writing SEO content? The amount of times where I'm like, oh, I've got to write this out. I'll just put some bits and pieces in, or not necessarily Gemini, but ChatGPT or something. And, it'll talk about the parameter handling tool in Google Search Console, or it will talk about, put in a no index and block it off with robots.txt. And I'm like, don't do both. That's stupid. And, I have arguments with my chatbots.
One of my favorite ones is ChatGPT still refers to AI views as SGE and search generative experience. So I always find it funny when you get an RFP through from a client, or you're reading a blog post that's supposedly published last week, and it's so you're still calling it SGE despite the fact it was renamed over a year ago.
Yeah.
There's silly things like that should be fixed, right? And there should be some kind of manual override in the back end for these AI agents to control them a bit better. So I was listening to a podcast yesterday and heard that Sam Altman says they're paying millions of dollars to respond to please and thank you.
Yeah.
And it's you need to write a script that just says you're welcome and move on with life. Do not process that. When you see the word please, the answer is you're welcome.
Yeah, but equally, when they take over everything, I want my chatbots to remember that I'm a nice guy. I am absolutely terrified at some point that the AIs will be taking over far too many services, everything from traffic cameras to you name it. Basically, I kind of do see that this is not going to be going slowly. It's going to be going quite fast.
Yeah. I mean, the other main takeaway I think that I got out of Google I/O and checking out what was happening with Marketing Live as well is just like Google's here to make money. Like Google's not there has been a fundamental change in what Google's trying to do, and they're trying to make money.
Yeah.
And so like the AI models that look like you, like, because they're tired of Amazon eating their lunch. So like they're going to outdo Amazon on this. And we'll see if that happens. But also all the video ads and stuff like that, and adding ads to AI overviews. I mean, they want to monetize.
I think touching on the Amazon part was actually a nice segue to continue this. And another thing which was kind of, we can start skirting around AI mode a little bit more now, was just the agentic checkout and kind of AI approach to shopping on there, and the Pinterest style image board that came up. And that's why I was surprised that Vision Match wasn't released at the same time as Virtual Try On. And just the sheer level of it almost did feel a bit like, you're kind of turning this now into a competitor against the marketplaces by using the shopping graph, by using everything else to become an ecosystem marketplace like it has been for hotels and flights for a number of years.
But also a more like closed system where they can track your entire journey and monetize your entire journey in the buying process, and get you looking at video reviews of this product and this product on you as a model, and written reviews, all in their ecosystem where they're getting the data. Like at one point during Google I/O, I was like, is Google going to come out with like a Google Basics line, just like Amazon created Amazon Basics, because they had all the data about what was selling and what people wanted? Like, they'll know so much.
I think maybe not in terms of physical products, but in terms of digital service led potentially, because they've got that's more their realm. Even if it was pushing more of a registrar CDN route kind of thing.
Yeah, again, I loved my Google VPN. I loved all those tools and things that I had that I bought from Google. And I'm terrified at some point they're going to kill Gmail. I'm really hoping they're not. Please don't take this as
they won't. It gives them too much data.
I know, but you know what I mean. Basically, I had so many things which I was like, oh, this is really cool from Google, and then suddenly they're like, oh yeah, we forgot about that. We're switching that off almost. And yeah, Google VPN is baked into Android phones, but it just doesn't work. And what was the Google Talk thing, the Google Mobile thing that they were going to release globally? I don't know if that's still around in the US, but it's certainly something which they never kind of expanded out globally. A lot of things are coming soon.
Google Fiber, kind of data service.
No, they had like a Google Mobile kind of servicing at one point in the US. And I remember they had better answer phone systems, and they had all sorts of other kind of crazy add-ons. And I was like, this is great. When's it going to come to the UK? And they didn't. It never happened. So,
I don't think it ever actually, some of it doesn't sound like it actually ever rolled out in the US ever either. Okay. But the main thing, and kind of what I think is the elephant in the room, and maybe Dan, you're trying to keep us like tame and quiet, but like the is the personalization. And like personalization of search results is going to make most of our keyword tracking and SEO kinds of tracking tools nearly irrelevant, right? Like that seems like a big deal. And they said, oh, well, you can I think they said you can opt out of it, which means you're probably opted into it by default. Which means that when you're in your account, they're reading all of your apps, including your Gmail, and including like what you're doing if you're logged into a phone, where they can see the phone behavior, like an Android phone. They know what you're doing in all of your apps. They know where you bank. They know, which apps you use the most, which social media you use the most. And they know everything from Chrome, which they already knew. But now they're going to like really, really personalize that. And the reason, if you look at only the SEO talks, they're not talking about why. They're just saying, well, we want to make it a better experience. If you go to the paid talks, what they're saying is, we're going to drive better conversion. We're going to get the most conversion for any ad you could ever have. You spend $1, you get 6. That was a literal quote.
Wow.
And so that's what they're doing all of this for, is so they can sell ads at a higher rate and the ads can reasonably convert better because they know the users better.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the earlier points you made in there is it's for a long time just focus on like linear traffic growth, keyword rankings, things like that. They're metrics we've been spoiled with as an industry, in my opinion, for at least over a decade. We've been a naturally high growing channel, and now we're having high levels of disruption, so we want to be more focused on overall visibility, overall conversion, overall working stuff. And we're lucky that AI seems to be falling adjacent to what SEO has been, even though I think part of it is almost like its own medium, its own channel, its own thing. But we're lucky that it has got that adjacency, that we're able to still take some of it. Otherwise, as an industry, we shrink quite hard very fast, especially in terms of budget terms.
I think we will shrink quite hard quite fast. And I think like saying that we're lucky that we're AI adjacent is an hopeful take. Very hopeful. I'm not quite there, as you might imagine. I'm usually more on the doom and gloom side. But what I can tell you is when Google started launching like Google Answers and featured snippets, there was one random query that I tracked kind of sporadically over the years. And what I know is it was about like, how old is a 15-year-old cat in cat years or whatever, like the equivalent of dog years, but for cats.
Yeah.
And there's, all this information. And originally there was an answer, but it was cited by a veterinarian. And then over time, the citation, every variation of that kind of query lost all its citations because Google was like, this is common knowledge. We didn't learn this. We always knew this. And they forget that they've had to learn they didn't always know things. And so I think the citations might they haven't started off great, but they might still erode further, is my concern.
We're going to have erosion. That is without a doubt. It's just how we adapt and evolve almost, because, so did I just steal your point, Gary?
No, I was just going to say the social contract. It's like, I just feel like, over the years, we had this kind of like, we'll produce great content. Google will give us kind of the traffic, and that's how it works. That's and I do feel like I'm turning into like the dad of the industry. I've become old and I don't like that.
Some people, so I saw Lily yesterday. I think this social contract theory is really interesting here because according to Lily Ray, like there was never a social contract. We made it up and talked about it like it was this nice thing, but it never really existed. And I usually agree with her, but I'm not sure I agree with her on this. Like there's also there is always some kind of tacit social contract of like, I will treat you well if you treat me well. I will ignore you if you don't treat me well. Those kinds of things. Like there's a reciprocity that's implied that doesn't have to be spelled out. And you're right, I think, in saying that Google has not followed through on their side of the social contract.
I'd agree with you there, Cindy, because nothing has explicitly been laid out, but for at least, if we go back to Matt Cutts days, years and years ago, yonks ago, the amount of resources, there's people employed at Google purely to be liaisons with our industry, to work with us and do different things. They wouldn't have that investment if we were completely blanked and on our own, and they didn't have even most of the tools they have, like Search Console. They want it. There is that social contract there. There is an element of reciprocal feeling. Now, it may not be 50-50, but there has always been a social contract of sorts.
There's the webmaster guidelines, of years and years and years ago. We would basically do what we did and Google would do what they did. And we wouldn't kind of buy bad backlinks. We wouldn't do hidden pages. We wouldn't do all those dodgy things, honest. And, we basically obeyed the rules, and we wouldn't. I mean, we would never do anything which we would consider to be black hat, as in, detrimental to the web, in response to, I'm having a bit of a rant here, but basically my feeling is, we were good netizens, and in return they were a good partner. I mean, I remember the days when they used to criticize everybody else for basically being pages of adverts, and they hated it when anybody else was too advertising. And now suddenly they're literally injecting adverts into their own content in a way that is not always quite clear. And I'd love to see how, Cindy, you were talking about the ads within the AI overview. I really want to see how they do that in a non-spammy way.
I mean, I've seen them in previous years' announcements, and they were super sexy looking ads. Like they made you want to click because they had really great images. Like the example that they used at the time was like a travel booking for some tropical island. And so it had these ad instances along the bottom with beautiful pictures and good headlines. And I'm like, yeah, like we're done. We're cooked. Like there's no, if that's there. And so they have shown, and people are seeing them in the wild already, ads in AI overviews or mentions of sponsorship or whatever, as of today. So I'm not super hopeful. And I wonder, like, let's stop. If we believe that there is some kind of social contract here, like what happens when Google stops holding up their end of the social contract, then we stop holding our end of it up, which is we stop creating great content and managing websites so that they're easy to crawl and whatever. Does that affect anything? No, maybe not. Maybe Google only really cares about the ads because they know a lot of things now, and they're going to pay feeds of information for any new information, right? They don't have to relearn history. They've already learned it from Wikipedia. They've got it, right? So they only have to learn the new things and then remix them with AI hot takes. And we don't need to learn the new things in the excessive way that they were learning the new things before.
I think you're absolutely right there. And I think this is the question, basically. At what point will Dan Taylor be producing unique content about sausages that's kind of like new and revolutionary, and he'll use Cloudflare to basically block some of the Google crawlers to stop it from being basically stolen and monetized and repurposed in a way that he's got the most up-to-date information about the best barbecue sausages?
So my point back to that, and I do like how we make sure everybody on the internet knows that I've run a sausage blog, so thank you for that. But okay, so say I'm a small business. I don't have the paid budget. I don't have social budget. I don't have email budget. For me to survive as a business, I need exposure. I need distribution. Other than Google, okay, I'm obviously Bing, who exist and things like that, but I still need and have a certain reliance on my ecosystem, not just because of I need the AI stuff, I need to rank, but Google has almost to the point, and I'm going to use the M word, but monopolized part of what the internet journey looks like. I am reliant on that ecosystem to get that distribution and exposure. So it's a love-hate relationship, then, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, but I have really strong thoughts on that, which is like, number one, like exposure in SEO was less of a, like even as an SEO, it's a less active marketing strategy than most other marketing strategies. It's kind of like tweak with the code and hope for the best. And that's not always a great marketing strategy, right? Like if you really need exposure, like that's not guaranteed exposure. That's just like twiddling the, like touching code, like, and making it slightly better or making content slightly better. But if you were really like needed like visibility today, what would you do? You'd go to social media, you'd reach out to influencers, you'd buy ads. Like that's still there. And I think my new theory that I'm working through right now is like that. I think to influence the AIs, it's not going to be one website at a time. AI systems, AI search, they say they want novelty. Maybe they want novelty to some degree, but what they really want is consensus.
Yeah.
And so if you have a consensus in social media that your sausages are the best sausages and the way that you cook them is the absolute best, and everyone on social media says so, and people are searching in Google for your name and your sausage content, then that is what's influential on the AI systems, and especially Gemini, who can see all of that behavior in real time, versus ChatGPT, which maybe couldn't, or not as well because they don't have a browser. So yeah. So I think influencers influencing the AI is the next path.
I agree with that. One of the main things I've spoken about is around like we're basically clients is consensus side of it. And I mean, you can go back, I think it was 2016, Rand Fishkin did an old Whiteboard Friday, and he spoke about granola bars in it. It's the best description I can give if people want to Google it, because I can never remember what it's blooming called. But he talks about, like, oh, if you've got 10 websites that sell one granola bar, 9 of them talk about nutrients, ingredients, palm oils, things like that, and 1 doesn't, it's going to stick out a little bit, and it's not going to match with the rest of the cohort. And yeah, Google's got all this information, it needs to have that, and I think it will always have some element of I will give an edge take on this if it's a popular edge. But that's where it starts. Even if you talk about interpretations, like multiple common interpretations, dominant interpretations, and all interpretations are not weighed equally. So I think you'll always give that a safe bet, and you'll only get that with that consensus. So the only way, if you're creating a homogenous style of content, the only way to break through that is through brand, is through being a standout in there. And it's not links, it's not digital PR, I think it's actually just the genuine marketing side of it and being a genuine company and not looking at the metrics of it.
I think SEOs are getting tired of hearing brand is the answer, even though I agree brand is the answer. But I think that SEOs don't even know what that means, especially like some kinds of SEOs who've just been deep in the trenches writing content, getting links and whatever. Like, we have to kind of take a step back and be like, brand is a lot of things, and brand is interacting with your customers on social media and interacting with your customers offline and like creating buzz and all these things.
It's generating a positive brand touch points at every opportunity in which your brand can be touched by either existing or new customers. And I think, was it Jono wrote an article about SEOs coming for a brand budget or something like that? I want to say it was Jono. Yeah,
it was.
Yeah. I don't think we should have a brand budget, but I think we have data which can help inform some stuff, because we can see brand search stuff and different things. I think we should have part of it, but we shouldn't have all of it, because brand is complex. And
I'll take all of it.
We probably all will, but whether or not we should have is a different thing. We shouldn't eat the whole cake, but still, we could Bruce Bogtrotter it. That's a little Matilda reference for everyone there watching. I think because it's so complex, we should actually now, rather than like how some clients have it and some companies have it, where teams are so siloed, it should be much more collaborative now and more focused, and no longer just kind of looking at, right, you're responsible for ranking position 1 to 3 on Google, you're ranking for linear month-on-month traffic growth and all this. It's actually, how does all this entire ecosystem affect it? I was at a developer conference a couple of months ago in Turkey, and I showed an example that a lot of their users were using Grok as a AI. But if you search like their product and pricing on Grok, it was pulling the answer from a tweet from 2021, and it was to do a student saver package. So the pricing was completely bonkers to what they actually wanted and what's going on. So it's like, so now we actually need to talk about, do we need to do a deprecation strategy for organic posts and tweets on social? Like, this is a wider conversation we now have to have as a brand.
You brought up Grok, and I'm going to derail everything completely. Have you seen the comments where Grok is now politically biased?
I've seen examples of it, but I tend not to go that much on Twitter.
Yeah. So basically, imagine that everybody's using an AI, and suddenly the guy that owns the AI has got a political bias or implication, and suddenly the responses and the answers coming out of it have got a strong political bias. That's a really interesting and dangerous position. It's you know how we looked at the Cambridge Analytica with Facebook a couple of years back, 10 years ago. Wow, that was a while back. And now the implications that if we're all using ChatGPT or Grok or something, and that has got political bias, that's going to
I
be
think,
so much more dangerous.
yeah, but I think it also comes from your learning sets, because doesn't Grok exclusively learn from Twitter?
No.
And it's quite heavy in the data set though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, but I don't think it's exclusively. If it's exclusively learning from Twitter, then Microsoft's bot, which became a dangerous bot, I won't go
Yeah.
into details, but
And
yeah,
they did that. The bot became racist in a couple hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that learning exclusively from Twitter would make it a terrible, 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 disgusting bot.
No,
But you're
it
right.
yeah.
The bias thing is a problem, but we're not the data sets that we're feeding in are biased, and humans are naturally biased. I think that the bias is always going to be the problem, and there's not going to be an AI that doesn't have some kind of slant on things, and that people may disagree with, because there are people who deny science, right? So ChatGPT is going to tell you that we're experiencing global warming, and someone's going to say that's wrong. If we can't agree on facts, how are we going to have an AI that knows what facts are and that can withstand questioning on facts?
You mean we end up with a deep seek potentially? Maybe. On a lighter note, we have a question from the audience I've put on the screen. If an LLM/AI service started to offer royalties on directly submitted clean and valuable content, original content for small partners/brands, aka the Spotify model, do you think would be take up?
Well, they're already paying, aren't they? They're already paying some providers for information like Reddit, and which is of course the ultimate source of the truth. And they're already paying different companies. At one point, Google was paying Twitter for basically the information. So it is interesting that they are kind of doing it, but they're not really doing it to the small companies. They're doing it to the bigger brands. So yeah, I think that's great. Basically, if I had the ultimate source of information about sausages, and people were asking information about sausages, and I could kind of go, yes, I'll provide my feed of sausage information, then yeah, I think that would actually be fair. So yeah, I think that would be right. But the question is then, who then pays Google for that information?
Well, and then the other thing is how do we decide how do we agree that the person who's making the decision about who gets paid is unbiased, right? This is a turtles all the way down. It doesn't stop.
I mean, if it's a pay-to-play model, that just means the larger organizations and large corporations who have the large cash can just drop a bomb of money on it, and then that's it. The internet becomes 7 or 8 brands, plus Amazon, plus eBay. Yeah.
I don't know. So it's a wait and see, because I think the problems, there are big problems. They will not be solved overnight. They may never be solved. They may just improve, hopefully. But with Google I/O, what I think the takeaway on Google I/O and Google Marketing Live is Google's trying to monetize. They need to cover the cost of all the AI, but they want to do it with AI. And they're going to do it with ads that convert way better, according to them, than anywhere else. And that's going to fuel all their AI costs. And we're less important.
Yeah, agreed. I think one thing that is true is SEO's trust in Google and Twitter and everybody is being eroded quite rapidly.
So on that extremely positive and happy kind of ending, I think we're going to wrap it up for this live session of the SEO Huddle. Been live for almost 45 minutes. If you've enjoyed this, please do consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. We aim to go live probably every 2-3 weeks, discussing various different things, sometimes more frequently if we're all able to meet. And it's not just myself and Jerry and Cindy who come across this, we have others as well. If you've enjoyed, Rama just also subscribing to his channel, please do also check out Jerry online at Durgle, which has got on the screen, and Cindy as Mobile Moxie. If you go to the bottom of my channel, you'll also see her channel and my favorite channels as well. Please be sure to subscribe there as well, because Cindy has a lot of really good videos on there, especially all the stuff around Chrome data listening. So on that note, I want to say thank you everyone for watching through the live stream, and we will see you again next time. Goodbye.